Well, boy, I actually wrote this book, I guess, a couple of years ago at this point. The book industry and children's picture books in particular move pretty slow, at least from my perspective they do. And I wrote the book because I had time. So, you know, when I do something like this, it's basically, it's a labor of love, and I do it when, you know, I'm not completely crazed. So if I have like a few weeks off, then I try to look for fun projects, and this was certainly that. I probably wrote it at home. I'm not remembering exactly what the situation was, but when I'm on the road, I tend to be completely brainless and just focus on doing my show. So I would assume I was probably at home at the time. Well, it's very gratifying. I mean, I like to know that, you know, people enjoy my stuff and that it's connecting, and I'm shallow enough to actually be very excited about the fact that it's a New York Times bestseller. And it not that I wouldn't have it even if it hadn't, but it certainly gives me extra incentive to keep doing it. She did. We're talking about Ann Hoppy.
Okay.
And I'm not sure exactly how it went down at HarperCollins, but Ann did present a couple illustrators to me.
Oh, okay.
Well, she gave me the illusion of making a choice, but I could tell that she really wanted to go with Wes. She was sort of like, well, we have these two illustrators, and there's Wes, and there's this other guy, but you really like Wes, right? And I did, and Wes is wonderful, and I couldn't think of a better partner for picture books. I mean, he's whimsical, he's a great illustrator, he's got such attention to detail, and it couldn't have been a better choice. So, so basically, I write the text. I work with Ann. Ann is a wonderful editor, and she worked very closely with me on the text. And what I love working about her, the thing I love about working with her is that she's, if anything, even more anal than me in terms of like paying attention to detail. And we would have weeks-long arguments about, like, you know, should it be a comma or should it be an ellipse? You know, because with the children's book where you have 800 words, every word, every syllable is very important. You want to make sure it's just right.
True.
So once the text was completely locked, only then did it go to Wes, who then, then it was all his show. And I pretty much stayed out of that. He worked with Ann and with HarperCollins, and turned out some amazing work. Well, he created the design for Billy. I mean, with a lot of input from myself and from Ann. And we both kind of had our own visions of who Billy would be, as did Wes. So, I mean, his initial sketches were very good, but we have fine-tuned it along the way. And it's all about fine-tuning. I mean, and again, Ann was a lot more on top of it than I was. I mean, the initial layouts that I got, I thought, this is great, and Anna would have like 500 notes, like, yes, but could you make the eyebrow go up a little bit more on this page? And it's great working with her, because in almost every other aspect of my career, I have to micromanage, I have to be on top of things, and with her I never do, because she's a lot more picky than I am. Well, it's just, the subtext of the book is about, individuality, and I was inspired by Harry Chapin's song, Roses Are Red, which is a story of a kid who's got this wonderful imagination, and he draws roses that are green, and he does all this crazy stuff, and the teacher says, no, roses are red, and it just like does not, allow imagination, doesn't allow thinking outside the box. It's got very rigid ideas, and kids should be allowed to, explore their imaginations. Thankfully, I've never had a teacher that was as strict or as closed-minded as Mr. Booth, but he was sort of an amalgamation of every time that somebody, wouldn't allow me to, think a little differently than the norm. So the book is a celebration of imagination and a plea to allow people to, sometimes break the rules a little bit. Well, I mean, just based on the in-stores, it seems to be doing extremely well. We broke our attendance record in Minneapolis a couple days ago. The in-store last night went for 5.5 hours.
Awesome.
It's, I don't want to jinx it, but it seems to be doing extremely well so far. We're doing a whirlwind 7 cities and 7 days tour.
Oh my
so
gosh.
we're smack dab in the middle of it. It started in Minneapolis, we did Houston, Milwaukee, today's obviously Chicagoland, Naperville, then Cincinnati, Raleigh, and then I wind up back in LA on Saturday. Well, yeah, I just, just warm up my voice before a show, and I have a little red cherry cough drop, which I call my magic singing pill, so I'll take that a half an hour before I go on. So I just make sure that I stay out of air conditioning and smoky rooms and take care of my voice, because I've lost it a few times on the road, and that's horrible, because I don't like to cancel shows, but there's no way to get over laryngitis other than not talking for a week, which is impossible if you're booked for 5 shows in a week. So I'm very careful about not overdoing it, but taking it easy when I'm not on stage. I try to eat healthy in general, and actually I probably eat worse on the road than I do at home, because there's so many opportunities. There's always pizza at 2 o'clock in the morning on the bus, and
pizza right behind you.
Oh, there we go. But in general, I don't abuse my body too much. Well, frankly, if you've already seen the ALPOCALYPSE Tour, you're not probably going to see a lot different, because it's the same tour, and we don't change it too much from night to night, because it's sort of like a Broadway play in the sense that there's costume changes, and there's all these logistics and film clips, and things have to go in a certain order, and if we change anything, then it's sort of a big deal. So once there's a little bit of moving around at the beginning of any given tour, because we're trying to figure out what works, what gets a good reaction, and then we revise it. But once we feel like it works, it pretty much stays the same. So if you haven't seen the show, you would love the show, but if you've already seen it, if you want to see it again, I won't stop you.